Alright, so here's our quiz number 3 review. It's on sections 7.5, 9.2/9.3, and 10.3. The first 3 parts, so these 3 parts, come from 7.5. So let's get started with number 1. So here we need to solve the equation, and they have common bases. As we see in number 1, the bases are already the same, so we don't even need to find the common base. We can just cross out the 5's, and we have 1 minus n is equal to 3n, and we just solve for n. So we add n to both sides, so we get 1 is equal to 4n, then we divide both sides by 4, so 1/4 is equal to n. Number 2, here we actually have to find our common base, so we need to change 25 to have a base of 5. So what we can do is say that 5 squared is 25, 5 cubed is 125. So perfect, this is what we're looking for, so we're going to change this 125 to 5 cubed. So 5 cubed is equal to 5 to the power of 3 times b. Now that our bases are the same, we can cross out the bases, and we just set our exponents equal to each other. So we have 3b is equal to 3. We divide both sides by 3. So we have b is equal to 3 divided by 3 simplifies to 1. So this is our answer for number 2. Now to number 3, we have different bases. There's no way we can get this 12 to have a base of 3. So what we do when we have different bases is we take the log of both sides. So we have the log of 3, and I'm going to move this exponent to the front. So x plus 2 times the log of 3 is equal to the log of 12. Now our goal is to get x all by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by the log of 3. So it'll cancel out on the left side, so I get x plus 2 is equal to the log of 12 divided by the log of 3, so I need to put this into the calculator. So make sure you guys know how to put the log of 12 and the log of 3 in your calculator for the quiz coming up. So the log of 12 is 1.07918, and then the log of 3 is 0.47712. Remember, it doesn't matter how many numbers or terms you write, but the more that you keep, the more after the decimal that you write, the more accurate your answer is going to be, the more exact. So now we just divide those two, so we have 0.07918 divided by 0.47712. So we have x plus 2 is equal to 2.2618, and then we can subtract 2 on both sides, so we get x is equal to 0.262. I'm going to round this up here just so I can leave it in 3 decimal places. It'll be specific on the quiz how many decimal places it asks for. But this is our answer to number 3. Okay, so now, if we go to number 4, we're going to do the same thing. So we take the log of both sides, so we have the log of 12. We're going to move our exponent to the front, so 9p times the log of 12 is equal to the log of 31. Remember, you got to take the log of both sides, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now we want our p to be all by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by the log of 12. So it'll cancel out on the left, so we get 9p is equal to the log of 31 divided by the log of 12, and now we have to put this into our calculator. So the log of 12 is 1.07918, and then the log of 31 is 1.49136. And now I just divide these two. So I get 9p is equal to 1.3819. And now I can divide both sides by 9. So I get p is equal to 0.1535, which can round, if we're rounding it to 3 decimals, it would be 54. Alright, number 5. So for these two problems, step 1 is to get it to be 1 log, and step 2 is to put it into exponential form. So for question number 1, we need to get it to be 1 log. So since we are adding the two logs together, when we condense it into 1, we multiply. So we have the log of 4x times 2, which we can simplify this even more and just multiply it together. So we have 2 times 4x, which is 8x. So the log of 8x is equal to 3. Now we put it into exponential form. So when we don't have a base, remember it implies that that base is 10. So we take our base out of the basement, our exponent comes from the other side of the equals, and then we set that equal to 8x. So 10 to the third power, 10 cubed, would be 1000 is equal to 8x. And then to get x all by itself, we divide both sides by 8. 1000 divided by 8 is 125. So 125 is equal to x. We're going to do the same thing for number 6. The only difference is here we have a subtraction sign in the middle. And we know subtraction goes with division when condensing our logs. So when we put it into 1 log, we're going to do 5x. So the first one divided by the second one, 5x divided by 7, is equal to 2. So remember, when we don't have a base, our base is 10. So 10 raised to the second power, because we get our exponent from the other side of the equals, is equal to 5x divided by 7. Now we're going to do 10 squared, which is 100. So 100 is equal to 5x divided by 7. Now to get rid of that 7 from the denominator, we can multiply both sides of our equation by 7. So it'll cancel out on the right, and on the left it becomes 700. So 700 is equal to 5x. We can now divide both sides by 5. So 700 divided by 5 is 140. Okay, so those 3 were 7.5. Those 6 questions were from 7.5. Next we have graphing, which is 10.3, so graphing circles. Alright, so first we need to find our center and our radius. So our center we get from our parentheses, and we need to change the sign. Very important that we change the sign of both. So our minus 2 becomes a positive 2, and our minus 4 becomes a positive 4. And we can go ahead and graph that. So we're going to go to the right 2 and up 4. And then our radius, we take the square root of that number that's on the other side of the equal sign. So the square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to count in 2 in every direction. So we're going to do the right 2, up 2, left 2, down 2. And we just draw a circle around it. Next, for number 8, we need to do the same thing. We need our center and our radius. So our center we get from our parentheses here, and we need to change the sign so that -1 becomes a +1. Since we have nothing being added or subtracted to that y, our y term for the center is just 0. So we can go to our graph, go to the right one, and we stay on 0. Now our radius, we take the square root, and the square root of 9 is 3. So we're just going to count 3 in every direction. So we're going to go to the right 3, down 3, up 3, and to the left 3. Let me just draw a circle. Okay, now we have graphing, but we're starting out with the graph and we need to come up with the equation. So again, we need our center and our radius. So our center is this point right here, which is 4, 0. And then our radius, we just count and see how many places to the edge of the circle. So it's important here that we realize that each block is 1/2, but we're going from 4 to 6, so we're only going 2 places, so our radius is 2. So now we plug it into our formula. So our formula is always going to be x squared plus y squared is equal to our radius squared. So when we take our radius and put it into the equation, we need to square it. So 2 squared, 4. And now when we take our center and put it into the equation, we need to change the signs. So our +4 becomes a -4, and our 0, we don't write 0 in our equation, so we can just get rid of these parentheses here and just make it a y squared. So x minus 4 squared plus y squared is equal to 4, and this is our equation. Now we're going to do the same thing for number 10. So we need our center and our radius. So our center is this point here. In a big circle, it's a little bit more difficult to tell where the center is, but if we just count 1, 2, 3, 4, we're 4 spaces from the right, 4 spaces from the left. We should be 4 spaces from the top and 4 spaces from the bottom. So we can always just count and figure out where our center is. So our point of our center, our coordinates are going to be 2, 3. And our radius, we just said it's 4 places from each side of the circle, so our radius is going to be 4. Now we can check here just to make sure that our boxes are only 1 unit for each. So we're going from 2 to 6 from here to here. So again, our radius is 4. So now we're going to plug it into our equation. So we have x squared plus y squared is equal to our radius squared. Our radius is 4, so 4 squared is 16. Now we take our x coordinate of the center and we change the sign. So our +2 becomes a -2, and our +3 becomes a -3. So this is our equation for our graph. Okay, next we're moving on to our arithmetic sequences. So our formula for arithmetic sequence is a of n is equal to a plus n minus 1 times d. So it's important that you guys have this formula right, because you're going to use it for all the arithmetic sequence questions. So now we just plug everything into our formula. Our a comes from our first term. Our n is what term we're trying to find. So 52 is going to be our n, and our d is our common difference. So when we go from 40 to 70, we're adding 30. When we go from 70 to 100, we're adding 30, and 100 to 130, we're adding 30. So our common difference is 30. Now we can plug it in. So to find our 52nd term, we start with our first one plus n minus 1, so 52 minus 1 times our common difference, which is 30. So our 52nd term is going to be 40 plus 51 times 30. Now 51 times 30 is 1,530. And now we just add these two together. So our 52nd term is 1,570. Now for number 12, we do the same thing. We need to find our common difference. So to go from 16 to 11, we're decreasing, so we are subtracting 5. To go from 11 to 6, again, we're subtracting 5 and subtracting 5. So our common difference is -5. We need to keep that negative with it. So we plug everything in. Our 52nd term is going to be our first one plus n minus 1, so 52 minus 1 times d, which is -5. So our 52nd term is 16 plus 51 times -5, which I can just put these in parentheses. So 51 times -5 is 255. It's -255 actually, so we're going to put a minus 255. So now we need to do 16 minus 255. So our 52nd term is -239. Okay, our last section here is geometric sequences. So for a geometric sequence, the formula we use is a of n is equal to a times r raised to the n minus 1 power. And our r is our ratio. So here we're trying to find the 8th term, so our n is 8. So we start with our first term times, to find our ratio, what we need to do is take our second term and divide it by our first one. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. So our ratio is 2. So we plug in 2 raised to the 8 minus 1 power. So our 8th term is going to be 3 times 2 raised to the 7th power. 2 raised to the 7th power is 128. And now we just multiply 128 times 3. So our 8th term is going to be 384. Okay, for our last question, 14, we do the same thing, but we have to find our ratio. So we're going to divide our second term by our first one. 8 divided by -2 is -4, so our ratio is -4. Now we just plug everything in. So our 8th term, start with our first, so -2 times our ratio, which is -4, raised to the 8 minus 1 power. So -2 times -4 raised to the 7th power is 16,384. It's actually -16,384. And now we multiply this times -2. Remember, a negative times a negative becomes a positive. So our 8th term is going to be 32,768. one way to tell, in case we get tripped up by our negative signs, is if we look at our starting equation, our first term is negative, our second term is positive, our third term is negative, our fourth term is positive. So this one is our second, this one's our fourth. All of the even terms are going to be positive numbers. So that would make our fifth term negative, our sixth term positive, our seventh term negative, and our eighth term positive. So again, all of the even terms are positive, so that's how we know that our answer is going to be a positive number, because we're looking for the eighth term. Okay, so this was the quiz review. Remember, A period, your quiz is going to be on Wednesday, and I period, your quiz is Thursday. So good luck.